Thank you, Liliana, for inviting me and all for the whole organization. I try to share my screen. Yes. Yes.
Yes, everything works.
Correct?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so I start now with my presentation. Try to do it in a fast way because otherwise I don't have the time for it. So let's go on. So I'm Willy Wijnands. I'm a chemistry, physics, and technique teacher in a high school for 44 years in the Netherlands on the same high school. And uh, I started with AgileXR in 2011. So more than 11 years. We are now experienced in this, and I teach for my own students, 2,500 own students. And next to that, I trained for myself around 1,500 students, teachers in the world. And now with an online version of AgileXR together with Christina, I train teachers all over the world. And that is very nice to happen. So I go on with my presentation now. So everybody knows, and we're here today also, the world is changing very fast. We live in a VUCA world. And the left bottom picture you see is a black and white picture from 100 years ago, maybe, but the educational system is still obsolete. So we are still teaching in the way we did in the age of industrialization. And that makes perfect sense in that time, but not longer applicable. So we created a gap between the educational offer and the market's requirements. So we need not only educate workers, but only leaders and high ethical thinkers. So we must change our way of educational system, and you also, we are doing this now, step by step, drop by drop, but we can adjust it, and it takes time. So how can we bring agile processes into the classroom that enable students to become more independent, self-organized, and self-directed in the learning? And so that they become owner of their own learning process. The teacher, in the old way of teaching, is not longer the only source of knowledge anymore. We hear this also of course today. So the next slide is about how can we prepare our students for the future with an agile mindset. And before I go to the next step, I don't believe in Scrum. I don't believe in AgileXR also. I don't believe in Kanban. I don't believe in Lean. Those are tools, but you have to use them with an open, agile mindset. Otherwise, it will be a trick. How many of you want to make a difference in education? I think that is, for a lot of all of you, want to change education now. How many of you would like to have motivated students in the classroom? So the first thing what we needed to know is why it is important to learn. And if I can't explain to my students why something matters, how can I expect them to be interested at all? So it is time to ask the students also what they want to learn, why they want to learn, how they want to learn. Also, when you have to stick to the curriculum. The curriculum is not so big impediment. It seems big impediment, it could be. So as I say, I believe in an agile mindset and the agile onion, as you see, like here. It is about tools and processes, and then bring it into practice, working with principles and values, as Liliana also mentioned. And then it's coming to your mind. And that takes time to change the mindset. So the first step, tools and processes can be adapted by command and control, the old way of teaching. So the teacher determines the what and how the students have to learn and must learn. And that is more visible, but not so powerful. And the next step, bring it into practice. And then you can say, we do agile. We do move sticky notes from left to right or whatever, use some tricks. So what we need, we requires a structural and cultural change. So we bring in the why we are doing this, what we are doing. So that is very, very important. So then we go to the next step to change the learning organization, like schools, but also companies, what's happening now all over the world. So then we bring in the why, the what, and the how for everybody, not only the bosses or the teachers who are in charge, So, and it is less visible. The mindset is less visible, but it takes time, but it's more powerful. So then we can say really, we are be agile. So when I bring this into my classroom, I started with a trust. I trust my students. When you don't trust and believe in your students, don't start with teaching in another way, because you must let them go. And you have to create a safe environment. So psychology safety is very important to create this in your classroom. And you give the students space and freedom to bring in their own practices also. That is very important to do it. So when I start with AgileXR in my classroom, I don't start my first lesson with chemistry or physics. I start on my first lesson with the definition of fun. Definition of fun are working agreements where students working together this year with me in our classroom. So I ask the students, what is important kind of agreements you make? We have to make together and we have to stick to it. And when there are some agreements where we not agree, we can talk about it. So definition of fun is the first step into my classroom. And I talk about, of course, psychological safety and trust. I trust my students for 99%, but I have to deserve their trust. So I have to work for that. So important is, what is AgileXR? AgileXR is a tool, an active collaborative educational process where the students working on projects according to a fixed rhythm. They plan and determine their own activities themselves, keep track on the process, and the teacher in the beginning determines the assignment. He is coach and gives some advice. He teaches. So we go from a teacher-driven education to a student-driven and organized education. And in the beginning, as I said already, the teacher has to determine the why and the what, and the students determine the how. The why and the what, especially the what, because we have to stick to the curriculum. But when we teach in open project, what I also do with my students, and I ask them what they want to learn, they are really unstoppable when they go for their own project. But when you ask them for the first time, they are really still for 4 or 5 minutes, because this kind of questions that they may learn what they want to learn, that is the typical question. So in a school, we have a starting point and an end point. You have to deliver something. In my case, in 7 weeks of 2 or 3 hours in a week of chemistry or physics, then the students dive underwater, and at the end they do the test or project or testing what they have to do at the end, deliver at the end the learning outcome. And we call this see you later, the kind of a waterfall way of working. In AgileXR, we work in short cycles. Every time we work in short cycles according to PDCA: plan, do, check, and adapt. And we change the word also for checking into a kind of a learning moment. Plan, do, learn, and adapt, or plan, do, review, and adapt. And like a dolphin, a dolphin is not a fish, as you know. You have to breathe, take air in, so he have to show himself. So every time when the dolphin shows up, the students show a little bit of their own learning outcome so far, or learning output so far. So we call this review moments. Show a little bit of yourself, adjust it if it's necessary, and go on for the next step. So then at the end, we do not only the retrospective of the learning outcome or learning output, but also on the personal and team development for the students. And every time they do this kind of improvement. So I love this picture. When you have to change something, you act small steps, and you can go for your big goal. That takes a lot of time. And as always, what I saw today also about the golden circle for Simon Sinek. But I changed the inner circle into a heart, because the heart is about your passion. It is, why are you teaching? You love teaching. I love kids. I want to see them growing. So that is important to bring the why in. And the what is determined by the teacher, and because he has to stick to the curriculum. That is one of the impediments we have to work, we have to deal with. But the how is up to the student teams working together in a team in short circles. So yeah, you see now the picture of ownership. With when you talk about the why, the how, and the what, you give students ownership for their own learning process. But most important, as I told already, you give them trust and the freedoms they need to do. That results in intrinsic motivation, personal development, and team growth. And they are more engaged, more productive, and they go for better results. Not only results on the grades of marks, but also on the personal development results. So 21st century skills is what we need today, because we are now we have now working with the students and to educate them for jobs who not existed yet. So we have to educate the students for jobs who are not existing yet, but for the jobs of tomorrow, not only of today's jobs. And we reduce the 21st century skills of 15 or 16 of these skills. I cannot memorize them. We reduce to the 4 C's of education. So it is about communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. So communication and collaboration is in the working together process. Critical thinking and creativity must be in an assignment or a project to think about, to give them freedom to be their own, working on their own creativity, and let them think critical about what they are doing, what is the impact on the project. The best project would be, as I heard today, also the real life project. So we add also 3 C's more. The C's are choice, give students a choice, make them curious, and I think one of the most important things, taking care for your students, caring. It's so important. So working together in a team, you have to build your team. So in the beginning, the students don't know, in the beginning, not conscious about their own qualities and skills. So during the whole process, they discover their own qualities and skills together. So what I use in my classroom is a list of qualities and skills of 15 or 16, and you can of 20. And they fill in the first place, in the first column, they fill in the 5 qualities and skills they want to use in this project. And then they go working together. And I have 3 columns, because the second or the third column we use in the review or retrospective moment, looking back what they really use. So when you use these skills, it is important to explain to students what is the importance of working in a team, working on a team, working together. And I use the pyramid of Patrick Lencioni, but we changed it a little bit. So the base of the pyramid is trust. Next to that is communication, and the communication must be open. That is also a very important issue, that the communication must be open, and it can be a conflict, but not a conflict in a fighting way, but a conflict in an that they can talk freely. So there's these 2 basic blocks, the trust and communication, leads to frankness, so they can speak out freely in their team. Then the feeling is coming in. They feel really commitment to each other. They feel accountability to each other, and the result is good when they stick to these 4 building blocks. But we add something more. The self-confidence of the students is growing. The self-trust, the self-communication is growing, so they can be themselves, be yourself. They feel self-committed. They feel self-responsible, and sometimes they do their own test. The self-test will also good in a good way. But when you work in a team together, then you have to get rid of something, and to get rid of something is your ego. Ego must be shrinked, so every team member has the room of the space to speak freely out of this, and it have to change into eco. So we go from an ego system to an eco system, working together. And we change the pyramid of Patrick Lencioni into a kind of a tree of trust. it looks like a tree. In this, especially in this case, it looked like a Christmas tree. So therefore, we changed it in the tree of trust. And as you know, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That was already more than 2,000 years ago from Aristotle. So, and it is still work on this kind of outspoken words. So the pillars of Scrum are transparency, adaptation, and inspection. But the inspection, the students of mine don't like the word inspect. Inspection is controlling this kind of stuff. So they control them by themselves. So we change the word inspection into a review moment. And these three pillars are, of course, built on trust. So how can you bring a project in real life? How do you do this? So put your subject into a project, to organize a party, to build your own sustainable development, a sustainable village, or your sustainable or energetic neutral house. How can you do this working together? So, and when you start in a project, you have to start with the criteria. When you don't have criteria in it, so the product owner, the left woman in the drawing of the woman of the left bottom, when she have in mind a big house with 2 chimneys and so on, and she don't say give criteria to the other people, to the teams, then the outcome can be very difficult. A tent or castle or a smaller house. So you must be clear. So when we have a project, we visualize a project like a big mountain. Big mountain is the backlog. You see also behind me kind of image of an iceberg. So we break down this mountain into boulders, big boulders and small boulders with their own criteria into it. And the big and small boulders we break down again into tasks. So the little drops, the little what you see there are sands. The sand is the task you have to do. So when we bring this, when we work with students in a transparent way, we bring this in a real case and make it transparent. So here you see the flap the same flap we use in Scrum, but there are some difficult things. On the left part, you see celebration criteria. That is the same as acceptance criteria, but depends also on the culture. When you don't like the word acceptance in a culture or celebration in a culture, you change it. But you have to set up criteria, learning goals, learning outcomes, or whatever. And the other change is run-up chart. The students of mine didn't like the word burn down. So I asked them, what is it? In 2017, they changed the word for burn down into run-up chart. So I want to see it positively. On the left part, you have the agreements, what you have to make together with the students. On the right part, you see the real working where the students are working on. With a team name, team members, team logo, and this kind of stuff. And you see the task on the to-do column. They are busy or in progress or doing, and the definition of done. And the done when the task is ready and meets the celebration criteria. On the left part at the bottom, you have a DOD. Normally in Scrum, it's called the definition of done, but it was confusing for the students, so they changed it also in the definition of doing. Working agreements, how can we meet the celebration criteria that our tasks are really done? And you see the impediments, as you see, when there are some difficulties, they can put the names onto it. So then we go to the process, when the AgileXR process. So the client from outside, for instance, give a real life project. They give it to the teacher gives it to the students team, and the Scrum, the team captain who composed the team together based on different qualities and skills, working together. Then they go into in the planning mode, and we call the whole sprint, depends on the school schedule. In my case, a sprint is 7 weeks of 2 times 3 hours, or 2 times 1 hour, or 3 times 1 hour in a week. So therefore 20 hours, 14 to 20 hours is a normal sprint in my case, but depends on your school schedule. When they can work on a whole day, we have sprints of 1 day for the students. So we have every time a kind of a review moment, and at the end, as I told already, a retrospective. And then we go into the planning mode. The students plan their own work together, and it takes mostly 1 hour to 2 hours to make the whole plan for the students. Say write all the tasks for the whole period for the project on sticky notes, and in the meantime they can adjust it, of course. And during this project, as I say, it takes 1 to 2 hours to make this happen. So go into the next step. When they have written down that task on sticky note, then they go into the estimation how many work is a sticky note. We go into the planning poker stuff, and you can use the Fibonacci sequence for 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 28, and so on. Or in the beginning, I use with my students a small task, a medium task, a large task, or big task, an XL task, or even bigger. So when the task is bigger than XL or bigger, then I ask my students break down this task in smaller tasks, small, medium, or large. So here you see my students estimate that task with cards or cell phones with the apps onto it, but the cell phone can be a problem because the battery is low or the memory is full of this kind of stuff. So cards behind, when you have cards, it is easy to have this. They follow their own, they bring all the tasks and count all the task points up and divide them to the amount of lessons they have, and they put this in a run-up chart. Now I talk now only on when I do this in an in-person teaching way. I show you how we can do it also in an environment way. So here you see the students working on creating their flap together. They get only a blank board, paper, sheet of paper, and they create them by themselves. So the creativity of the students, you see different boards. You see the run-up chart working onto it. You see here another flap. You see here also put the flap on the wall and see the progress. And on the left side, you see the celebration criteria put into rubrics, what is very important to work with the students. You see there's some sticky notes about the definition of doing, definition of fun. And of course, despite or thanks to COVID, it's both, you can use it what you want. We also create this flap on a Miro board. So working together with students in a Miro board works very well when the students cannot come to the school. So we give them a kind of an example for this Miro board, and they work on the Miro board with themselves. And as normal in a Scrum way of working, they have a stand-up meeting where they come together before standing in the class, and the students hang the flap on the wall, and they ask them 3 questions. What did you do since last class? What are you going to do today in this class? So are there any problems or questions you don't know? If not, they go into the work. If they have questions, they ask me to step in to resolve some questions or give them question back. So that is important to start with the students. Here you see some examples working with my student in the classroom, do the stand-up meeting, and the adjustment of the run-up chart when they are ready. So when you are teaching in your classroom, you don't teach for 50 or 60 minutes in a classroom in a row. Mostly I teach one time in the 3 lessons. I teach for 20 minutes, 30 minutes to talk about their questions they have. I collect them, I ask them what they want to know, and then explain some difficulties they have. Then we have kind of review moment. We're looking back in between the 7 weeks, in my case, or at the end, we do a big retrospective. Here you see some pictures where the students are showing their results so far. The left top is about learning about electricity. They build their own house, and there were really beautiful outcomes into it. Here they are testing a bridge, a paper bridge they make together. So at the end, they do the retrospective and they're looking back, and here you see what they do on looking back on their qualities and skills. The red dots are the qualities they discovered or they use a lot. They discover by themselves, and they're working together. They put this on a big sheet. Then all the qualities and skills are in together. So there are a lot of different retrospectives. You can Google it. Some retrospective, Sailboard retrospective, one of my favorites. Simple and fast. Tops and tips. Ask your students for tops and tips. How can you improve your own lessons? One word retro. Step stop. What went well? The start hot air balloon. You have a lot of fun retrospectives you can use, and it takes some time to change it because they are not used to work in this way of working. So, as I told already, the results are much better. The results on marks or evaluation niveau 10 to 15% better than on regular base. But for me, more important, the personal development and the team development is growing very, very fast. And they work very fast. In my case, my first year students can do the whole year of 4 terms, can do all of the project we have to do, stick to the curriculum and the school, which I do it in 3 terms and not in 4 terms. So I have 6-7 weeks left, and then I can do with the students what I want, because I am fixed and I'm done with the real work what they have to do. And then I ask my students, what really do you want to learn about chemistry or physics or whatever? So they bring it into, they come up with a lot of questions, and they're really going beyond the curriculum of the end results of what they have to do in our school. And the students have fun. Fun is a very important driver, working together with students. When there's no fun, looking for yourself where you don't feel safe, when you don't have fun, it is hard work. So, and here is an overview of what you also saw with Liliana presented it. How can you put subject into a project? So don't teach only subjects, but put your subject into a project. You do the team formation, you go into the planning stuff, then you go in the working cycle with the plan, doing the work, the task, putting from to do, busy to do done. You do the stand-up meeting. In between, you do the review moments. After the rest is presented, you do the retrospective, focus on the learning outcome and the personal and team reflection, and then you start again with the whole process. And one of the pictures I like most, and I hear it also today, is this one. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the student is truly ready, the teacher disappears. So we don't, as Erwin also say, we don't need a teacher in the old way of doing as we did. So
thank you.
It was an and yeah.
Thank you very much, Willy.